The records came to the archives in 1977 and they were indexed, but I think they sat pretty quietly for quite some time until Kirsten Thorpe began work here 7 years ago, and she's still the only Aboriginal archivist in Australia. And I think it was her dream that the photos be much more accessible to the community, but in a way that she felt confident that it was being treated culturally in a way that people would appreciate.
The records that the photographs that are in this exhibition are a part of, in a way really encapsulates what archives are all about, because archives tell the naked truth.
The photos are very powerful documents and they're multi-layered, and someone who is connected to the photographs, when they look at them, they have a range of emotions all at the same time, it seems to me.
Family was the big connecting, I suppose, concept that we started with, and so then we started thinking, well, if this is going to be all about family, then the space has to be really domestic, the space has to be really inviting, you know, because we walked in here and this is a pretty typical foyer of an office building, and we had to, a government office building, and we had to create a space that was like somebody's home.
That's an art of mine. Ida Fernando, and that's my mother there. This one. That was taken when she was 19. She was apprenticed out in Sydney. That's Bill Richards and Emma Richards, and that's the same two there when they got married, I think.
Well, it's fantastic to see it finally eventuate, because I think the project started a year ago or something, and we contributed some funds towards a project officer, which was Merv Bishop, putting it together, so that was been really useful. It's great to see it finally come to fruition, and I think the elders are really impressed. Everyone I've spoken to is really impressed with it, and I think it is a bit emotional when you start looking through those photo albums, I must admit. It's great if it becomes part of the general curriculum and the history of Australia.
I'd like to acknowledge our Aboriginal elders and pay my respects. And to all our Aboriginal brothers and sisters, from whatever Aboriginal nation you may have come from, welcome to Gadigal. And to all our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters here today, a very warm and sincere welcome to you.
I'm a Koori and I come from Cumberganja, where my people and my dreaming all began.
The images were taken and collected by the Aborigines Welfare Board, formerly the Aboriginal Protection Board. These boards controlled the lives of Aboriginal people in New South Wales between 1883 and 1969. Their policies were all-encompassing. They influenced every aspect of people's lives, from the removal of children to the health, education, employment and housing of Aboriginal people on stations and reserves. During these years, the boards had oversight of the removal of more than 5,000 Aboriginal children from their families. The In Living Memory exhibition is the first time that they have been on public display in an exhibition setting. We can't sugarcoat these images. The board's collection includes images of children from the bush visiting Sydney for annual summer camps, wedding photos of couples getting married on reserves and stations throughout Western New South Wales, and studio portraits of young Aboriginal women.
Just give me time to live my life, to wake up with my wife, see my boys grow into men, to be a lover and a friend.
That a lot of the records held by State Records are very, very painful for a lot of people here tonight. But I guess one of the few good things, maybe one of the only good things that can ever be said about being a disadvantaged or a discriminated against group is that you get so many records created about you. And what's created for unacceptable purposes originally can later become valuable for self-discovery. And it's part of State Records' brief to make these available, and we hope that for you they are a rich experience.
We belong to this land, it's our home they call down under. All our states, our Aussie mate, will make you proud, no wonder.
Thank you, Shirley.
When I turned 6 years of age, the year the Second World War finished, my father come down to Bomaderry Children's Home, still in his soldier's uniform. He thought he'd be able to take us home, but they wouldn't let him.
Is the photographs that were taken by the Aboriginal Protection Board. It's a history and it's a resource that my children will use.
Yeah, photos that were taken by an organisation that was really reviled and now being seen and prized, I think is really quite significant.
It was quite amazing. I mean, some of the faces that I knew of people 20 years ago, you know, the faces of their grandparents look like they looked when I first went to Western New South Wales. It's an amazing resource, especially given where it comes from and how it was collected. It's great to see this stuff being shared and used in a positive way.
George showed me the photograph of his mother when she was a young woman indentured to a white family in Sydney. And the Old Cane family. And this is just one of the thousands of photographs that are on this exhibition that are part of the puzzle of the many years of the shameful policies of our past, a history that we have to face. The department contributed funding and also some resources and coordination towards this project. I'm very proud that of the role that the Department of Aboriginal Affairs played. Certainly we couldn't have done it without the enormous contribution by those people in the Aboriginal community, the elders, who, like George, went through Kinchela Boys Home, who reconnected with those old photographs of their mothers and so many of their relatives. And as I said earlier, it is just part of some of the mosaic, of the jigsaw that goes to make up the history of so many years of Aboriginal history in Australia. And it's a history that we need to confront. It's a history that we can't shy away from, but it's certainly something that we need to celebrate with those surviving elders and relatives here tonight, and who will be seeing this exhibition obviously for the first time.
All of the photographs can be seen through the database, and people can search those, but it's a different matter really to have photographs available through a computer screen than have them up on a wall like this.
Some of the plans we're talking about with education, like the Learning Federation, Curriculum Corporation, writing it into schools.
As for what happens next, the other records of the Aboriginals Welfare Board, of which these photographs are a part, they're quite different in many ways in the way that we have to handle them, because there's a lot of sensitive personal information in them, and that means that I think it'll be a while before we're even able to release them for general public access. At the moment, if anybody wants to use those records, it's mediated access through the Department of Aboriginal Affairs.
Someday I know I'll be returning, like the legend of my tribal boomerang, like the legend of our